all the feasibility and the processes he would need to go through to achieve this manifesto promise that was also given prior to election 2016 there in the NPP manifesto. Also, we'll be getting into the content of exactly what the president and his vice president, together with Article 71 office holders, will take home tonight here on Key Point. All this detail coming up. Stay there. We're also live on DSTV right here on TV3. We'll be back shortly. This is Key Point. All right, so President-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo says his government would begin electing metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives as MMDCEs beginning 2018. He was interacting with chiefs in the central region as part of his thank you talk.
Will have taken place, and the referendum that the Constitution calls for is going to take place together with that.
So the current structure is that the president nominates a candidate and then it is approved by 2/3 of the membership of the assembly. Now, this proposal, what this means is it has to go through some form of amendment constitutionally. So proposals to elect metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives has been lauded by many over the period. Now, a political economist and also local government expert, Dr. Eric Oduosai, is of the view the election would make them more accountable to the people they serve than the political parties they belong to. He's been speaking to my colleague Catherine Fimpoma in an exclusive interview.
The main argument is that this is seeking to bring some transparency and accountability in our democratic systems. I have with me a governance expert, Dr. Eric Oduosai, to help us deliberate on this issue further. Now, this issue about electing MMDC is with the hope of bringing transparency and accountability to our democratic systems. We are already electing our MPs, and to a large extent, some people feel that that accountability bit hasn't been achieved. What difference do you think this is going to make if we are to elect our MMDCEs?
If we are to elect our MMDCEs, what is going to happen is that the MMDCEs are at the local level with the people. They don't come to the center. The MMDCEs would then also be given a clear mandate to develop the place. The MMDCEs will also owe no clear allegiance to the center. They will no more allegiance to the people at the local level. When we look at it as it is now, the DCEs are appointed. If they are elected, what is going to happen is that if the common fund is delaying, because the DCE is elected by the people and he needs the resources to deliver, he will be able to speak up against it, and if possible, if the law allows, go to court to challenge why the common fund has delayed. As it is now, it is difficult for any DCE to challenge the delay in common fund because it is the same government that appointed you. And the DCEs may also want security of tenure. They think that if they are elected, they have 4 years to work. But if they are appointed by the president, they can be sacked at any time. So it will also reduce the struggle between the chief executive and the sitting MP undermining each other for one person to become the MP. And then also, DCEs will be compelled to perform because if you are not performing, come next election year, people will vote you out. And it will also reduce this issue of having the non-performing DCEs continuously to be at post.
Do you think that we should maintain the quota system of appointing some of them and then electing some of them? Or how exactly do you think it will work out for a perfect system that we all yearn for?
I think what the president-elect and his government can do is to quickly review the Constitution Review, the white paper of the Constitution Review Commission. And then after that, they should have a way of initiating processes leading to the amendment of Article 243. And recently, Parliament has passed a Local Governance Act, which also makes provision for appointments. So they have to amend that one too. And then if they really want an elected MCE to work, then they should ensure that they also work towards fully electing all the members of the district assemblies. Because you cannot have any government appointees in the assembly system. When you do that, then you should not have elected a DCE at all. So they should go a step further if they are electing the DCEs, then they should go all out to also abrogate the government appointee system and then elect all of them.
Given the present circumstances, the white paper and everything, and the current processes that persist to our nation, what do you think will be the first step if indeed we want to achieve this by 2018?
The first step is that I would expect the president-elect to appoint his minister for local government. The minister for local government should quickly put together a committee that would work the modalities out. That committee should come up with a roadmap, and then the roadmap should include a review of the government white paper on the Constitution Review Commission's report. So once they do that, then they will be able to get a clear sense of direction by coming up with the revised law to amend the Constitution and then the Local Government Act. But let me also say that Article 243 of the Constitution, that makes provision for the position of Chief Executive, is not an entrenched provision. So it will be an easy passage for the government because they have the majority in Parliament. So once they lay the paper, it is something that will go through. So the first step basically is the constitution of a team, the revision of the government white paper, and then initiating the process of amending Article 243 and the Local Government Act.
That was governance expert Dr. Eric Odro-Osine giving us some education and analysis on what to do that and attain the purpose for which we intend to do it.
All right, so that's Catherine Frimpong in an exclusive interview with Dr. Eric Odro-Osine, a local government expert. But George Chei-Baffour is a former National Association of Local Authorities Ghana, that's NALAC president, and he joins me on the telephone. I thank you very much, sir. Good evening to you. Now, what would you make of the moves to elect MMDCs, especially when we know that there's a constitutional provision, Article 243, 1 and 2, makes that provision for the election of MMDCs, the appointment of MMDCs by the president and 2/3 of the assembly approving his nomination, as against what the Constitutional Review Commission also put out in their final report, sir?
Well, thank you very much. Greetings to your cherished viewers. Let me say, wish everybody Merry Xmas and prosperous New Year. As a strong advocate of good and accountable governance, I think that I am for the proposition that MMDCs are directly elected to universal adult suffrage. I have some reasons, 3-4 reasons why I think that this will inure to the benefit of the governance and development discourse of the country. First of all, you look at the factor of accountability. The chief executives are the administrative and political heads of districts. And they are responsible for the implementation of the decisions of the assemblies. These assemblies are 70% elected. So if you have elected people who are making decisions for an appointed person to implement, it doesn't sort of create clarity in the way the system works down there. Again, you realize that MMDCs are more or less accountable to the president and not to the people. Every 4 years, the president nominates them. Sometimes you realize that the people oppose the president's decision to renominate DCs whose term have expired. It happened at Joseph. There were a series of demonstrations. It has happened in a lot of places across the country because they think that the person, from their perspective, the person might not have performed, but the president, for obvious reasons, will want to impose the person on them. Okay. And there are demonstrations, and it creates a lot of challenges for decentralization. Okay. We are operating a national governance system which is virtually all elective. So why do we superimpose that one on a decentralized system where we have MMDCs who are partisan because they are elected through the party system, even though Article 248 admonishes for a non-partisan decentralized system? These are direct party people who are nominated by the president, in addition to the 30%. So now, if there's an opportunity to elect them directly through universal adult suffrage, I think it enhances the governance system at that level.
Accountability. Okay, I was asking you about the processes that this particular proposal that President-elect intends to go through will take, because he's giving a 2018 deadline. Now, is 2 years enough to have that come to pass, especially when there's a current constitutional provision that supports the current system of the president nominating a candidate for 2/3 of the assembly members to approve? We also know that the Constitutional Review Commission's final document recommended that they should be elected. But I'm asking about the process it will go through for the 2018 deadline to be achieved. That is, if the 2 years is enough.
Well, I think 2 years is enough. But looking at it, I believe that the incoming president tied it into 2018 because the next district assembly elections will be conducted in 2018. So perhaps he wants to reconcile the elections simultaneously for the election of MMDCEs and assembly members to take place simultaneously, and that's a good effort. I believe 2 years is enough, but I mean the president-elect has not come out with the modalities in the manifesto of the MPP. The position is that within the first 2 years of office of the MPP administration, they will put mechanisms in place to get MMDCs elected. First of all, the election of MMDCs is not an entrenched provision in the Constitution. So the process of amendment is not as laborious as an entrenched provision.
Good position.
So it will be a bit easier. And I think that 2 years, that's enough. But I will admonish the president to look out for partisan election as well, because you see, as it's happening now, you go to the assemblies, all appointees are partisan people. They are elected from parties in government. MMDCs are nominated or appointed from parties in government.
Okay.
So it's like we are behaving like the ostrich. Let's go partisan, allow other parties to put up candidates for the assembly elections and for the chief executive's position, and then we do away with the appointing system, which has become an albatross hanging on the neck of governance at the local level, because they hold elected people to ransom, and that's not fair for good governance.
Great. Thank you, Mr. George Chebafo. Here's the former president of the NALAC, that's the National Association of Local Authorities, Ghana, giving us opinion that he believes that there has to be even a partisan election to that effect. This is a promise that the president-elect, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has made. He's reiterated and giving a timeline to it. Now, there were fears that were expressed by the likes of Professor Kwamina Ahoy, who is a former local government minister and also local government expert, expressing the fear that it could lead to a sabotage of a sitting government. Now, if you look at this particular promise, this was what was made by the president-elect, that he was going to ensure that this is done. Election of the MMDCs announced comes after several calls by some Ghanaians for such positions to be put to vote rather than appointment by the president. Now, if you look at the constitutional provision specifically that stipulates exactly what we're talking about here, Article 2431 of the 1992 Constitution, as you can see on your screens right now, MMDCs are currently nominated by the president pursuant to Article 2431 of the 1992 Constitution and Section 21 of the Local Government Act 1993, Act 462. They're also mandated per the law to be approved by majority of members of the assembly. That is what the constitutional provision which actually stands. Now, if you look at 2431 specifically, what does it say? Let's get into the Constitution now. Now, Article 2431 says that, and I quote, "There shall be a district chief executive for every district who shall be appointed by the president with a prior approval of not less than 2/3 majority of members of the assembly and also voting at the same meeting." So this is what the Constitution, Article 2431, states, which supports what is actually currently existing now as we speak. The Constitutional Review Commission's document also endorsed the calls for the election of MMDCs.